Hello and welcome to Why You're Wrong, the show where we take a closer look at football's biggest narratives to separate fact from fiction and find out what you might be missing. And with transfer season fast approaching and the rumour mill already spraying powdered garbage in all directions, we're turning to Arsenal this week to ask whether the reported interest in Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo really makes any sense. It's not unusual to hear Arsenal linked with big moves in the spring. After all, it's the time of year when season tickets come up for renewal, and it's easier to justify the highest prices in the country if a new superstar might be on their way to the carpet next campaign. But this time it feels different, with Arsenal's excellent, if ultimately disappointing season, announcing them as real title challengers and reintroducing them to the Champions League with relatively few obviously superior sides in the mix, meaning that elite reinforcements seem both necessary and likely. The rumour mill is currently grinding out stories about Arteta's midfield, with reports indicating that a fee could soon be agreed for West Ham's Declan Rice, as well as suggesting the Spanish schemer might return to Brighton for previous target Moises Caicedo. The pair would cost around £170 million, but are both Premier League proven in good sides, and they'd make the second youngest team in the division still younger, theoretically replacing the only two regular starters at the Emirates over 26 years old. It all sounds like a dream, right? Well, yes, in that it doesn't entirely make sense. Both Rice and Caicedo are excellent players ready for the step up, and both would make sense as big money signings for the next phase of Arteta's Arsenal. Caicedo, other than the price tag, has a whiff of Wenger about him, exploding into the public consciousness this season after just 700 minutes last year, missing just a single league fixture in Brighton's surge towards the top four. Just 21 years old, the Ecuadorian is already one of the best defensive midfielders in the Prem, rating among the top 10% of midfielders for tackles and the top 20% for interceptions, with 4.7 defensive actions a game. He's also a good passer with high volume, success and incisiveness, this time just outside the top quarter of midfielders for playing forwards. But with below average progressive carries and no final third presence, it's clear what Caicedo does. He shields the defence, he gets the ball to the attackers. This is a classic holding profile. Rice has a slightly different use at West Ham. After all, he's the club's superstar. His defensive numbers are lower, 4.1 tackles and interceptions to Caicedo's 4.7, and in a team with less possession. But that's previously been as high as 5, while other attributes have gradually come to the fore as his stature has increased. 6.2 passes into the final third each game is outstanding, 16th in the Prem to Caicedo's also strong 30th. But unlike the Brighton man, he frequently drives forwards on the ball, completing over a dribble a game across his PL career at a phenomenal 70% clip, while his ability to carry possession upfield rates among the top 15% of midfielders in Europe. But if this makes the two sound very different, it shouldn't. Rice is positionally looser than Caicedo, but the common belief that the Englishman is an 8 and the Ecuadorian is a 6 doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Rice has put up a career-high number of touches in the final third this season and still is in the bottom half of midfielders for that stat, while 70% of those in his position get more touches in the box and 60% take more shots. Caicedo, understandably, doesn't pop in any of those metrics either. In fact, the two are so alike that if you head to Moises Caicedo's page on FBref, the site we use for most of our stats, among the 10 most similar players to the Ecuadorian is Rice at 5th. You don't want him sitting in front of the back line with no freedom to roam, but if your plan is to have him play the Xhaka role, the Swiss getting more than double Rice's 0.13 xG per 90 this year at 0.3, you're not asking him to develop a current trait, but to learn a whole new skill. Xhaka at least had shown some ability in this area in the past, frequently creating close to 1.5 chances a game from deeper, but Rice has never done that. And even his strong points would be diminished by a posting in the final third. It doesn't matter how much ground he can cover or how physical he is defensively. If he's so far up the pitch, he simply can't get back to help on breaks. But let's give Arsenal the benefit of the doubt. After all, Arteta's ability to identify the right signings to evolve his system over the last 2 years has been outstanding, despite missing out on many top targets, taking them from 8th to 5th to 2nd, while the teams who trump them in the market, like Manchester United and Chelsea, languish far behind. So maybe he'll do the same with Caicedo and Rice, playing them as a true double pivot and allowing Ødegaard to feature further forward, in more of a 4-2-3-1 formation. Well, the first thing is that this makes Zinchenko much less useful. The Ukrainian has been Arsenal's best passer this season, leading the squad in passes each game, passes into the final third, and progressive passes, in fact ranking 10th and 7th in Europe's top 5 leagues for the latter two metrics. But with Caicedo sitting deep and both able distributors, Zinchenko would either be forced back into a conventional left-back zone or pushed up into the final third to maybe take up Xhaka's position in the attacking five, creating a topsy-turvy setup. It would actually make more sense to field him in Xhaka's place. Otherwise, it's a difficult game of Tetris for Arteta to organise. But beyond that, it leaves Arsenal exceptionally vulnerable in what has become their most important position. Rice and Caicedo would cost around 170 mil, the lion's share of even a generous transfer budget, and even selling two of Jorginho, Partey and Xhaka could only be expected to recoup 45 mil at best. That makes it unlikely the club could also move for a real attacking midfielder, not to mention another winger and the right-sided centre-back they're supposedly after. And following the season just gone, it's hard to argue that Ødegaard is not the team's most important player, the captain producing 22 goals and assists from his hybrid 10-8 spot. While Jesus or Trossard could cover for Saka in a pinch, the Norwegian's backup is Fabio Vieira. The Portuguese, a £32 million signing from Porto last summer, let's not forget, has played just 477 Premier League minutes this term, and though he's produced 3 goal involvements in that time, he clearly isn't ready for major game time. Despite mostly coming on against tired opponents, he passes into the penalty area half as often as Ødegaard, plays about 2/3 of the progressive passes, and is shockingly weak on the ball, beating his man 33% of the time to Ødegaard's 55%, and losing possession 3.6 times per 90 to his rival's 2.7. A title challenge relying on Vieira, at least this version of Vieira, is a title challenge likely to fail. So rather than going for both Rice and Caicedo, the Gunners would be better off adding one of those guys to replace Thomas Partey and targeting a completely different profile to take the place of the departing Swiss. A Mason Mount swoop may be over-optimistic, but that's exactly the right shape of player Arteta needs. Someone who is defensively capable, rating in the top 20% of attacking mids for tackles and interceptions, but who also has the end product of a real number 10, averaging over 2 shots and 2 key passes a game across his career. That would make Arsenal's first 11 almost impossible to defend against, but also mean that Ødegaard had a true backup, important in case of injury, but also vital to bringing down the fatigue levels which have sapped the Gunners down the stretch as well. It's understandable that Arsenal want to turn over their central midfield this summer. It's the only area of the pitch where they're not young, with all 4 CMs entering next season over 30 years old. And either Rice or Caicedo would be excellent for the club, offering outstanding passing, great athleticism, physicality and defensive awareness to a team seeking to cement its place in the PL Elite for years to come. It's possible that the club could buy both players and still find salary and squad room for a free pickup like Yuri Tielemans. Not ideal, but at least giving them another forward-thinking guy in the engine room. But if adding both players means they can't deepen their attack or make themselves disaster-proof in other key spots, the Gunners will have merely traded one fragility for another and could find a single misfortune derailing another tilt at the title, with Manchester City's otherworldly level under Pep Guardiola requiring something close to perfection to be beaten. Maybe Arsenal can do all the business they need. Maybe they can ride out another campaign without a season-ending injury. But splurging the entire budget on Rice and Caicedo is a risk. Arteta should consider whether it's the best one for the club. So that's our show for this week. Get your suggestions in for future episodes in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.